This is We Are the Promised Land. I'm Free for All. Welcome.
How you doing, Annie?
I'm fine, thank you, my love. It is funny when I call you and it goes to your voicemail. You said, "I am free," and I'm thinking, I hope the hell you are. Cheers.
Working on it. Working on it.
We work so hard to keep you free, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the funny thing about freedom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that it's really a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of people have fought and died for that, you know? And still we don't get it. They don't know how important it is to be free.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Maroon. Not the wine-thick, purplish red that stains lips and hands after hours picking berries, pricking fingers on thorns. Not the pirate crew left for dead on a desert island, skin crisping in the sun. Not the insult of a cartoon rabbit, holding a carrot like a cigar, ready to hoodwink another hunter. But maroon, from the Spanish cimarron, the mestizo descendant of the Taino cimarran, meaning wild like an arrow thrown off course, and the Spanish cimarra, which has fallen from use, but translates as thicket. In the Americas, maroon signifies a state of fugitivity. Black folk who self-emancipated and established communities on the frontier or fringes of colonial society in order to maintain something like freedom, a freedom which lived under constant threat. Other peoples who refused to submit to the social order imposed by colonists and enslavers made up maroon society as well. The Seminoles were African and Muskogee people who banded together and migrated south to Florida in order to maintain their sovereignty. Near New Orleans, the settlement known as St. Malo counted among their diverse population self-emancipated Africans, indigenous people, and Filipino sailors who had deserted Spanish ships to live out their lives in the swamp. Maroon communities were subjected to raids periodically to root out, punish, and re-enslave the people within them. Authorities attempted to log, drain, burn, and otherwise tame the landscapes maroons inhabited, which the communities chose in part for their inhospitality to colonial militias. Nowadays, we use maroon to describe communities and activities which live on the outer edge of the law in order to survive the predatory powers of systemic oppression. Maroon economies develop where systemic structure undermines a community's capacity to sustain themselves. For most of the 20th century, many Black folks in North Mississippi were confined to sharecropping for their income, which of course was never prosperous for them. Lots of folks supplemented this meager living by participating in a very popular maroon economy.
Yeah, corn liquor. My father was a bootlegger, okay? And he made some of the best corn liquor in Marshall County. That's where we're from. And he used to make it for the chief of police of Holly Springs, my grandfather as well, okay? And so we had a little hookup. So when the revenue man would come around checking these places, my grandfather would get his liquor and put it on a rope and put it in the pond, okay? Until they come and check things out and everything's okay. And when they leave, they pull it out, put it back in the ground, okay? So we did that, and we sold a lot of corn whiskey during my time coming up as a young kid. That was one way of surviving, extra money coming in, and plus working the farm. And that got us over, okay? And yeah.
When Annie Hollowell was a kid, fun was just like everything else you had. You had to make it yourself, especially if you were poor. Annie and her sisters, Bessie and Mattie, remember their dad, Mark Nunley, as a kind of human Swiss Army knife who could not be kept from a good time.
He loves to hunt and fish when he catch over the crop and stuff.
Part-time carpenter,
Yeah.
piano player,
I know,
guitar player.
Oh wow.
Had a pretty good voice.
what was that song he loves to play?
I would like to say Old Black Mattie.
Oh, black man, it got go, sing that roll. Who got drunk and told us, drunk our dough.
Yeah. So back in those days, when all the kids that was home, and like Friday after everything is done, you're sitting on the front porch, nothing to do because you live so far in the country. So you get the tub, the cans, and the buckets and a stick. And we'll just start our own little band, okay? And I think my dad had an old guitar, and he tried to play that, you know? So we just have our little
That
stuff.
song.
Yeah.
Oh, black man.
Music, dance, and sports were at the center of social events, and booze, the most common social lubricant. This is Annie and her cousin Atranis.
They made their own, everybody made their own wine.
Yeah, make your own wine. And
Homebrew.
Homebrew, homebrew. Homebrew is a beer, basically. Okay. Yeah, for Christmas you make your wine. My mother made wine for Christmas. My father made corn whiskey all the time. My granddaddy made corn whiskey all the
And
time.
you're talking about good cakes.
All right now, Atranis, the cakes do sound good, but let's stick with the liquor for a minute. Maybe you're already familiar with the U.S. Prohibition era. During that time, every way you could interact with alcohol was outlawed. The manufacture, sale, and consumption of liquor could result in fines or imprisonment. The Magnolia State was the first to ratify the 18th Amendment, which kicked prohibition off for the nation as a whole, and the last to sign the 21st Amendment, which ended it. The whole nation was subjected to enforced teetotaling from 1920 to 1933, but Mississippi had its own prohibition laws on the books from 1908 until 1966. In 1944, despite the fact that alcohol was still under prohibition, the state instituted a 10% tax on liquor, which suggests that widespread alcohol use was an open secret. In any case, homemade hooch was a staple of Mississippi nightlife for the better part of the 20th century. Revelry of all kinds, from juke joints to private soirees, was fueled by contraband spirits. Folks made beer from grain, as well as wine from muscadines and elderberries. But bootleg whiskey was the cornerstone of its own maroon economy, which carried with it at least as much risk as it did reward. Annie's daddy, Mark, was known for making White Lightning, a clear corn liquor, but he didn't come up with the recipe out of thin air.
They learned how to make it from my father.
This is Aunt Corine, one of Annie's mother's sisters. Her father, Willie Sanderson, was a master moonshiner.
When they did it together, he learned them how to do it because he let my husband how to do it. And my father made corn liquor. And he sold his corn liquor. And everybody in the country, around the country drank his corn liquor, both white and black.
Bessie, Mattie, and Corine went back and forth trying to conjure the list of ingredients. Sugar for sure, corn malt. These details were fuzzy, but Corine remembered vividly watching the kettle full of brew get turned.
And they made a fire. And the horses would go round and around until they had thought they liquor was ready. Then they would take it off, strain it if they had to, and cap it in a bottle and let it sit for maybe weeks before they start selling it. But my dad had a keg. It was a charcoal keg. He would put his in there. And when they come out, it looked just like state store liquor. Yeah, it's good. People love corn liquor.
What did he sell for? What about that?
He sold that for himself.
Liquor.
Corn liquor. Oh, he sold the boneless liquor for the white man.
Say it again. What's that called? The
boneless liquor store liquor.
okay.
They call
bonus
it.
liquor.
They call it boneless liquor.
Gotcha.
From what they still at the liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
And they would bring it out by the cases, and he would sell that for them. They gave him a cut, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had their business going.
To hear Corine tell it, it sounds like some of the state officials who enforced liquor laws were selling smuggled booze on the side. My research has not clarified whether this was a common or merely local practice. But regardless, these relationships bought Willie immunity as a bootlegger. Corine remembers a neighbor of theirs wanted a piece of the action. These two white guys showed up one day, so he thought he'd shoot his shot.
They came down the road, and they turned in to go down to my father's house. And he's at the mailbox. And he said, "Hello, y'all. I know who y'all looking for." And he said, "Oh, you do? Y'all looking for Mr. Willie Sanderson. Okay. Y'all going down there to get liquor. You don't have to go that far. I have it." "Yo, you have liquor? You have liquor?" "Yes, I have liquor. I can sell you liquor too." He said, "Bring me a pint." He ran to the house and got a pint and brought it back. They tasted it. It was good. He said, "Do you have any more?" He said, "Yeah, bring me a quart." When he brought the quart back, they said, "You're under arrest."
Oh.
Took him to jail. Took him to jail. But see, he didn't have the connection they had.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever they would come into, the state people would come in, they always would come to our house, and the state people uptown be to let him know what's going on. You got anything around, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out. And they would go through his haystacks of this or that.
It wasn't enough to have quality grain or a good technique. To be a bootlegger, you needed stealth. Annie's dad, Mark, camouflaged his liquor still in the woods.
He found his spot. He covered it so people wouldn't recognize that it's a steal, okay? And it was on the, probably about half a mile or a mile away from the house, okay? About a mile away from the house, in the pine. And the pine was so thick, it would take magnifying glasses in order to locate the area. But we know the route, okay? And so it was closer to a pond, so you had to go and take the water from the pond, put it in the 30-gallon barrels or whatever it was that he was cooking it in, and let it ferment for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then go and cook it off. And it come out just as white as Sprite, just as clear, and just as, you know how corn liquor look. That's what comes out once they cook it off, and it drips and drips and drips and drips. It's just like it's filter itself, okay? So that's what he did.
Mark's liquor was very popular amongst his neighbors. Folks would show up round the clock to get a taste, which Annie didn't like too much.
Okay, and people would come like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, want a fifth of whiskey, okay? I have to crawl in the damn house where the sticks and things are and find that stuff, okay? That was a great big part of mine growing up.
Crawling under the house
Crawling under the damn house, and it's pitch dark and the snakes and things under the house, but they didn't bother us. We got the liquor. We know I knew where all the holes and thing was. He said, "Get up." It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. You have to go out there and walk that path and dig down, pull it up, take it back to the house. Now, my other sister, they did basically the same thing. If he couldn't get me to go and do this, he would get someone else to go and do it because everybody know the routine. Right. If he didn't have it under the house, it was outside of the house or just away, buried in the ground, okay? And you would never know that it was there. And they say when you process the liquor and you put it in a glass jug like that, and you bury it in the ground, it ferments even more, okay? He just didn't make just white light. He made the bourbon.
Oh, okay.
He had the barrel. He made the bourbon and all this good stuff.
Annette, what do you think you've inherited through this bootlegging lineage that serves you at Foxfire?
I think about security a lot out there, because so much of how we talk about Foxfire, like in other circles, is as it being like a beacon place, because we are open to public. We do have very public events. We do have these concerts and shows. And so there's a level at which we are not undercover. We are not under wraps, right? I think what happens when people are out there, the experience at the shows, the private trips, the retreats, how people choose to spend their time and be with each other on the land, like I think that very much happens under the radar. And there is like a level of stealth and a level of safety in it. I just think about like pathways through the woods and knowing how to camouflage things, knowing where and how to find things, and that not being knowledge that was accessible to everybody, right? And just like how that's been a tool for survival for so many of our people, and not just to, hide a whiskey still, but like it comes out of the same thing, right? And there are all these like survival tactics that, like I think about that New Orleans history, or that, the narrative that I've heard about people that lived out in maroon societies and colonies, but might come into the city to sell their goods or vend to make some income, and then go back out into those communities. And so there is this balance, there is this dance behind like being accessible and public facing, and how that provides cover, I think so much of what occurs to me as stealth now is with regards to the water, is Waterford. We live outside of Holly Springs. We're very close to the Tallahatchie River. And so thinking about what my dad has shared around like knowing what banks on the land you can kind of like break open to release water, to create creeks, to fill a pond, to do different things like that. So I feel like there's something to understand about the natural systems, the natural flow out there, and like how nature has developed its own stealth systems in some ways, or it's just like operating how it operates, and like, oh, we discover something and it's like, oh yeah, that's a hidden bank, or this is where a creek wants to be, and stuff like that. But when I think about what are we engaged in currently, or what will we engage in the future that would require that level of secrecy, it's not immediately evident to me, but I could definitely see that being useful. I could definitely see that being something that comes back around. And I think it's just important to remember that as we plan for the next 100 years, we plan for the future, let's think about the fact that part of that was knowing how to find things that are intentionally hidden, how to hide things so that not everybody knows, and what might that be, whether it's for our intentions or if it's for like community,
Foxfire is named for the glow of a bioluminescent fungus that Bill remembers finding as a kid on the land. The subtle green radiance can come from a number of different species, including Armillaria gemina, most commonly found on rotting wood in Appalachia. As the fungus digests the decaying tree, it releases photons from the molecules being pulled apart, kind of a reverse photosynthesis. The resulting light is slightly more powerful than a firefly and extends through the mycelia as it crawls through the tree's xylem. Because the fungi thrive on dead trees, they can be obscured under brush and fallen leaves. You have to know where to look and what to look for. a quiet beacon winking from the forest floor. The first time I met historian Rhondalyn Peairs, she told me that if I was trying to say anything about Black land in the Hill Country, I had to talk about Mollie Barr, who hosted picnics on her land for the Black community in Lafayette County for roughly 30 years in the middle of the 20th century. These days, Mollie Barr Road draws a crooked line across the city of Oxford, from Highway 7 to the university campus. Even though Mollie Barr passed away before she was born, Rhondalyn heard stories about her when she was a child in Oxford.
Mollie Barr, as I grew up here in the Oxford-Lafayette County area, was a folk hero, for lack of a better word. And I say that because I went to church actually on 600 Mollie Barr Road. Mm-hmm. And there were stories in the community that circulated about Miss Mollie Barr. You know, like she was this larger than life figure. So some of the things I heard about Miss Mollie when I was a child were things like when she got mad, she would walk the 25 miles to Batesville and back. That nobody, Black, white, otherwise, messed with Miss Mollie Barr. That she had parties or community events, what we call here in the hills, picnics on her property. But her character seemed to be that of an African-American woman who was strong, confident, independent. Mm-hmm. We know she had children, but we have no records of a marriage for her. And seemed to just, like I said, loom larger than life over the Lafayette County landscape. So that's the kind of stuff I grew up with. People would always say, Mollie was a businesswoman. She was a businesswoman. And meaning she handled her business, she minded her business, and she was about business. And really no nonsense, didn't take anything from anybody.
One reason Mollie may have seemed larger than life is that over time, details of her life and personality got mixed up with those of her aunt, Caroline Barr Clark, who was the childhood nanny of famed author William Faulkner. Years ago, while Rhondalyn was working at the Amistad Research Center at Tulane University, a colleague stumbled across a couple of letters between Faulkner and the Black Methodist Episcopal Bishop Robert E. Jones.
So he wrote around in the middle of last century to a lot of prominent white Southerners to ask them to reflect on their mammies or their Black nannies. Mm-hmm. And so he wrote to Faulkner, and Faulkner wrote him back. And what we get is a sketch of Caroline Barr Clark. And not just the kind of facts as Faulkner knew them or thought he knew them, but also we get a look into her personality. And so he mentions things in this letter that went into kind of the folk persona of Mollie Barr. So she was really an amalgamation of those two people, because who would walk 24 miles to Batesville was Miss Caroline Barr Clark. And it wasn't because she was angry, that's where her adult children lived.
Okay.
So, I mean, she might have been mad because she had to walk, but she would be going to see family in the next county.
Okay.
Faulkner says that Miss Mollie was Miss Caroline Barr Clark's favorite niece. She was probably also the only niece in the area. Miss Caroline had started to tend Faulkner and his siblings when she was already probably in her 40s to 50s. Her children were adults by then, and her children lived over in Panola County. So Mollie Barr also was one of the physically closest relatives to her. So what's unique about Mollie Barr as well is 1962, of course, was a very tumultuous year here in Oxford-Lafayette County. At the early fall, James Meredith integrates the University of Mississippi. But also earlier in July, Faulkner died. And Black people at that time did not show up a lot in the local paper. In the Oxford Eagle. So when I looked at the Oxford Eagle, there were just a couple of times I saw Black people in the paper.
In both instances, the pictured men went unnamed. Rhondalyn happened to recognize one of them as L.D. Johnson, a former deacon from her church, working a machine in an ad for Rebel Press. The other anonymous man was a farm worker who brought the first bale of cotton to be processed downtown at the New Gin off the square.
So all Black men, but the only article about someone Black that I can identify and that was a quarter of a page and had a picture of them was Miss Mollie Barr. And the title for that article was "Takes No Jawing, Mollie Still Boss at Home." And so that article mentions that she managed many farms. It does not say, of course, the acreage or if she was leasing these farms, if she was owning the land. We don't know all that. But it does say that this white reporter showed up at her house up the hill from my current home at her residence and interviewed this woman and took this picture. So it's kind of amazing. She pretty much ran that hill. And everybody respected that she ran that hill. Oftentimes, when people look at Black people or they look at women, they look at people who have, quote unquote, familial ties with whites in the area, like a illegitimate child or, whatever, that midnight integration they talk about in the South. But this doesn't seem to be the case with Mollie Barr, which always made her even more interesting to me. She was just, she wasn't regular by any means, but she was just a regular run-of-the-mill Black woman. And she was able to do all these things. She was a midwife. She was a live-in domestic. And she ran all this stuff from her property on the weekends.
Back in 2003, Rhondalyn interviewed one of Mollie Barr's daughters, Rachel McGee. Rachel said Mollie bought her first parcel of land after her father, Ed, passed away. His death was unexpected. He was still fairly young, and in the process of purchasing land somewhere else in the county. Mollie's brothers had all left home already, so Mollie felt responsible for her mother, also named Rachel. Here's Mollie's daughter, Rachel McGee.
And she always told us the reason she didn't get married, because she didn't want to bring somebody and put them over my grandmother. And she bought this place up where I told you on Mollie Barr Code. She wasn't making them but $8 a month. And she bought a place for us. She never did have to go to the welfare like these folks do now. She always kept us plenty. And my grandmother stayed home taking care of. And I'm going to tell you another thing. My mother had 11 children, but I ain't never seen her go to bed with a man. I never. And where she got them not around her mama, not around us. But my mother was a mother and a father for me. We never was out of food or nothing like that. She worked and took care this old white lady. And when she died, she had borrowed $100 from them to buy one place where I moved out here off of. When I moved out here. She paid for that place when that place was given to her by the Millers. Because she had borrowed $100 and it was 10 of them. They all give her $10 apiece when their mother died. Now that's the way she started her thing going. And she always bought land. She told us that if you make a dime, save a nickel.
So Mollie Barr herself, like I said, was born in 1878 and died in 1965, and was this larger-than-life figure. She was illiterate, so she definitely could not write. I know she couldn't sign her name because I've looked up deeds for her, and the one that I found had her mark. One of the things here in the Hill Country especially that we find is that Black landowners, and probably throughout the rest of Mississippi too, but Black landowners took it upon themselves to do certain things for the community. So she would sell off homesteads. So she would, if people could not buy a piece of property, obviously we're a very agrarian society in Mississippi, and you needed a place to have a home. And so folks with the right social capital and land would sell off pieces of that land to give other Black people homesteads. I know that was the case in even my family's journey here, and that was in the 1960s, but Miss Mollie had been doing this for decades prior to that. So it was pretty well established that that's something that Black landowners could do for the community. Also, these picnics were another example of what Black landowners did for the community. They would create spaces on their property for Black people to gather, eat, entertain, socialize, kick off steam, and for music to be played. And it seemed that she had these picnics, at her place, maybe as early as the 1920s through the 1950s. So she would have done that kind of community work and building all the time. And people knew the way that her and her mother, Rachel, were, that Miss Mollie would always take care of people. So you wasn't gonna go hungry at Miss Mollie's. She'd feed I think it was her daughter said, she'd feed every stray animal and person that came to her house. And, you'd always get a treat when you went to Miss Mollie's house because she had a smokehouse, she had plenty of food, and she was used to taking care, her and her mother were used to taking care of the community.
Again, Ms. Rachel McGee.
My mother, what I'd call a good person, what I would see. She never was into it with nobody. Arguing and fussing and nothing like that. She, she was just magic. All the children in Freeman would come to Mollie Barr's house to eat in the wintertime. So, when there wasn't no school, we'd sit around the fireplace and roast and stuff, and, we had a plenty. And I remember long years ago, people's around here, I ain't calling no name, then Daddy would come to my mother's house, and my grandmother would tell her, go out to the smokehouse and fill your sack up with corn. We had grist mill. Go and feed your children. She just took care of everybody. I never will forget Miss Rogers. You know the Evelyn Rogers. And Miss Rogers didn't have a home. And my mother gave her a home. Yes, deeded land to her, you see. I don't know. All I can say, my mother was good. I don't know. Nothing about it.
Did she rent property? Was she?
No, she'd rather let you stay there.
So yeah, she provided stability, the promise of land ownership to other African Americans. She helped people birth children. If you were hungry, she would feed you. So she seemed to be a very benevolent community leader and was able to do so because she had the stability and status that she had. And really fits into what we know about the documentation of Black land ownership and also the documentation of blues and drum and fife music.
North Mississippi's Black fife and drum tradition likely finds its origins in the early days of the American colonies, when enslaved people were required to train in the military, but were restricted to performing in parades as musicians. At least, this is where the instrumentation comes from. The melodic and rhythmic roots are deep in African soil. There are most likely indigenous influences as well. During the Reconstruction era, folk melodies and spirituals were incorporated into the canon. Artists like Sid Hemphill and Othar Turner shepherded the fife and drum tradition through the 20th century. Turner was known locally for hosting at least one annual picnic on Memorial Day at his home in Gravel Springs, which featured his Rising Star Fife and Drum Band and a roast goat. His granddaughter, Sharday Thomas, has kept the band going since his death in 2003.
And of course, Othar Turner was somebody who was documented by Alan Lomax. And he may very well have played at Miss Mollie's. We don't know for sure. But we know he played in Oxford. So that's probably where he would have played.
Music was a central feature of every picnic. But of course, so was the food.
Usually we find the wealthier people are kind of dictates what they cooked and fed their neighbors or what kind of food they sold at these gatherings. So a lot of these large-scale landowners would provide these kinds of, like they would do cows or they'd kill a hog. They had smokehouses. Some of the smaller farmers like Othar Turner, smaller Black landowners, they may do goat. Othar Turner's goat picnics. His children are still carrying those on out at Gravel Springs in Tate and Panola counties. In Miss Mollie's case, her daughter calls them possum suppers.
Historically, in Mississippi, Black land has provided a form of sanctuary for Black communities. It has offered space for Black folks to gather outside of the white gaze and build solidarity. As far as I know, Mollie Barr wasn't using her land specifically for political organizing, but it's clear that she provided an important venue for Black people in her community to enjoy something akin to marronage.
And the sheriff knew not to come up on her property when she was having her picnics, which are Friday night, Saturday night. Usually most hill country picnics end just before midnight, coming into Sunday. Othar Turner said when it becomes the Sabbath, we stop, and the last song we play is always a gospel song. It's always a Christian song as we move into Sunday. So for her, the sheriff and the police chief knew not to come around there at all. Don't come on my property, which is kind of an amazing thing to say and assert and be understood.
John Leslie was mayor of Oxford from 1973 to 1997. He was the mayor who petitioned to name the road after Mollie Barr. Rhondalyn interviewed him in 2003. While he was a young man in the late 40s, receiving his education at the University of Mississippi, he and his wife lived in campus housing. not far from Mollie Barr's property, which at that time was just outside the city limits. In those days, Mr. Hewitt, the gas man, would come and refill their kerosene tank.
And from the housing unit, there's a little low strip to go down Washington Avenue down in there. And the sound would carry a little bit. But I remember on some Thursday nights, somebody was about dark would start beating drums. And they wouldn't be constant, but every now and then, boom, 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 boom. And they'd go sometime till 10 o'clock. And so one night, Mr. Hewitt had come to fill up my 50-gallon kerosene drum right there. And I said, Mr. Hewitt, what in the hell is that drum beating? What's going on? He said, that's Mollie Barr. And I said, what do you mean? He said, Mollie Barr beats the drums on Thursday night when she's going to have, he had a name for it, but I forgot. And he said, I said, well, when she has it, what is it? He said, well, it's on Friday and Saturday nights. But to beat the drums on Thursday to notify the police to stay the hell out. And she tell the police stay out, that she will personally be responsible. And they said the police just don't go in there, and they just leave it alone.
What did you think? Did that not strike you as a little bit unusual for that early a black woman to be able to tell the police, don't come back on my property?
Don't come back. But I mean, she had a good rapport with everybody, and she'd do what she said she was going to do. And said the blacks were scared to death of her, that she wasn't going to tolerate any foolishness in her day. So they were appreciative of the fact that they could go in and gamble and drink, and on the fact she chaperoned them. Of course she was making some money off of it, I'm sure. Well, that's okay.
I also, in the folk hero thing, was always told as a child, Miss Mollie shot real well, and so she would keep the peace because she'd have a shotgun across her lap. And when I interviewed her daughter, that's not what she said. She said, "Mama just, kind of had a big mouth, like she was and that's also what Miss Mollie articulates herself. She was that person. That's why I often refer to her as kind of a folk hero. And I think her aunt, from what William Faulkner wrote in the letter, was that way too. Like, I think this family, this trio of women were not for the nonsense. Like, they did not suffer fools. They didn't care what gender or race you were. They were not for the play. You did not come messing with them. And I think they give a counter narrative to both gendered and racialized marginalization in our history. They didn't care that they were women. They didn't care that they were black. They knew they were, but they weren't going to settle for any kind of second-class existence.
So part of why I'm asking you about Mollie in general is because we've been considering her throughout this process of kind of compiling Annette's lineages as somebody whose lineage Annette falls into, as a land steward, as somebody who is also particularly stewarding local culture.
Right. And we'll pass it on to her, all daughters, as a daughter.
Right, yes. Exactly. And so what would that mean to be, say you're in the lineage of Mollie Barr?
I think, to me, that means that you are strong, strong-willed, strong in mind, feisty, sure-footed in about what you want and about what you want to do and about what you will and will not take. I think means you demand respect. I think it means you support not only your family, but your community, in a larger sense. And that you're able to deal with circumstances, what may. I think that's the legacy and lineage that she leaves to all Black women, especially as Hill Country girls. And I'm very grateful for that legacy and lineage.
Do you consider yourself in Mollie Barr's lineage?
I humbly desire to be an honorary member of Mollie Barr's lineage. Well, I hope to be a similar woman to her. I mean, I hope to be a woman who's strong, who's resilient, who shows agency, who cares and is active and civically engaged in their community. I aspire to be a businesswoman like she was, and to be one who perseveres and one who can be respected for the work that they do by people who I care about respecting me. Probably the people I want to be respected by are not the same people that most people want to be respected by. So yeah, I mean, those are the ways that I feel like I want to be like Miss Mollie Barr.
All that won't kill you will make
somebody here be the somebody here.
My mother was a mother and a father for me.
A forest that takes about 20 to 30 years. This is about a 20-year growth. They say if you want to change people, it takes about 300 years. 300 years.
I'm the son. I'm always like, I'm the son. I know I'm the son.
Is because I exist.
You want to talk about the ladies in my family? They are the backbone in our family. They are very strong, very independent, very self-sufficient.
Start off coming from a cotton sack to cotton slack. Yeah.
So no, what's his is mine. What mine is mine. Let's keep that shit straight.
And I want Annette to make those decisions. I'm ready to cruise now.
Yeah.
So,
at Foxfire, at least the foreseeable future is female.
It sounds good. I think that's better. Yeah.
Testing.
If I can get,
There you go. Yep, that's good.
When Annette and I met, she had 2 kids. Selah and Ida were just 5 and 2 years old. Now, Selah is 13, Ida is 10, and Ruthie, who wasn't even a glimmer in her mother's eye, just turned 4. They've all grown so much in the 8 years I've been shuffling around in the background with a field recorder. Selah has bloomed as a visual artist. You really should see her manga. And Ida has stepped into herself as a performer, singing Al Green and Hoagie Carmichael. She has really quite a range of taste. Ruthie is plain bossy, but that's normal at her age. Oddly, though we've driven up to Foxfire and back together, broken bread, watched movies, and played all kinds of games over the years, we've hardly talked at all about Foxfire.
Foxfire's been in our family over 100 years. What do you imagine about our ancestors? This would have been your great-grandfather when he bought this land 100 years ago. Like, What does that mean to you, if anything?
Here's Selah.
Well, I know that 100 years ago, things like it was a very bad time. And for a Black person in the South to own land, it was like an incredible feat. And it must have taken a lot of pride and pain to get all that land. Because what I've been learning in history and social studies is just like about that time and the Emancipation Proclamation, which is older, but also just like segregation and Black codes and everything that was happening against colored people just for living. So in like such a place like America, where a lot of bad things have happened and still continue to happen, and just like a lot of segregation and discrimination and hatred is, I think it's great that like we've been able to keep our land so long, and and we're still doing stuff with it, and people get to enjoy it, because I think that's what it's about.
Ida has less concrete context, but she understands that the labor of her ancestors was significant.
I picture them like doing a long day of work, right? And then like wiping the sweat on their forehead off with their arm. Like you see in movies when people work hard. Yeah.
More of a slow motion.
Yeah. Another day's work. Yeah.
I think Ida gets this impression because she sees that kind of hard work all the time when she visits her grandparents.
Yeah, they work really hard to maintain it. And I know this because they're always when relatives come, and then they're always in the kitchen or they're helping out, they're always doing something that will benefit people there. And it shows that they probably really care about it. They're always working, whether it's in the kitchen or they're dancing. Yeah, they dance a lot, and then they play games. So they also always enjoy they are also always enjoying themselves there. Yeah. They bring a good energy, a good vibe, good spirit to the land. And that can tell you it's well cared for. Whether it be Big Mama growing her peaches and plums on the land to make wine with them, or Papa helping fix up the horse stables, or just moving the horses from stable to stable, letting them eat the grass and wander around. It's you can tell that they've done a lot to get there. I can just imagine just all the effort that's gone into it and all the cultivation. And I heard we used to have cows out there, and now we only have horses, but just maintaining livestock takes a lot, and they're a part of the land.
For sure. Okay, so what is Foxfire? What is Foxfire Ranch? If you have to describe it, as you've heard me describe it a million times, how do you describe it in your own words? Ida, you go first.
As a farm, and then a place for catering, and then a place where events are held, and then a place where there's a lot of cabins and people can stay and have fun and enjoy themselves. Yeah.
I gotta say, if 10-year-old Ida sounded like she was a little out of her depth describing the ranch, Selah was ready to sell it.
Well, I want to quote the sign when I say this, but Foxfire Ranch is a great place for gathering. It doesn't matter what you want to host, it doesn't matter what you want to see, invite anyone and just have fun. The food there is great, courtesy of Big Mama, and it's just such a nice experience. I've been there for so long, so it's nothing's new to me. It's oh yeah, Foxfire Ranch, I know that. But honestly, I think it's a great experience. Obviously a need if you're heading up to northern Mississippi. I love visiting, even if it's messy or rainy or stressful. I love working at the register and talking to all the customers and seeing people who are hey, I remember you, or you look so cute, or are you Annette's baby? And it's oh, I don't know who you are, but I'll take your order. But yeah, it's just great.
Thank you for that. Free, you have questions?
Well, when Selah said, even if it's stressful, and I'm curious about...
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah, I was just curious when is it stressful? What does stressful feel like there for you?
Anybody listening to this who like runs a business will know that managing things is really stressful. And I've seen that firsthand.
What do you manage?
Well, I manage money, excuse you. So the first thing that's stressful about Foxfire is honestly being understaffed. Like, it's great, it's been in our family for a while, but then the problem that comes with that is that it's hard to employ people. Whether it be the mama's reluctance to, or just like finding the right people. So that's why I help out with the register. I help like give drinks, non-alcoholic, of course, wink wink. But that's not the only stressful thing. Other stressful things is when it comes to budgeting and just like how the world changes. Recently, we've narrowed down our blues shows again to like once a month and then like raised our ticket prices because it's better profit for us. And of course, in a way, like that makes me sad because I like what we had going. I like the thought of and the actual feeling of being like this community business, and it's like, oh yeah, I've gotten used to paying the same price. Like it feels like nostalgia for people, and I want them to think, oh yeah, this is my 5th year coming here. Something hasn't changed a bit, but like in a good way. So then when I think of that, it's kind of like, but it's also, I'm glad that we're adapting and we're still able to stay relevant and do well, like with how the world and money and just our venue is changing.
It shouldn't have surprised me to hear Selah's constant "we" in reference to Foxfire. Since Ruthie was born, I've seen her pitch in a lot more around the house and at the ranch. Still, I hadn't expected her to be so invested in the nuts and bolts of the family business. It kind of sounds like you feel a lot of responsibility for Foxfire?
I do, but like never too much. Like it's not like, oh, they're putting all their workload on children, but I do feel responsible.
Child labor?
Not child labor. But I do feel responsible for it in a way because like it's I don't even like I feel like some need like I am going to inherit Foxfire and I want to keep it up and running and I want it to like kind of in a way conform to my ideas and my thoughts because I want to take responsibility for it. Like it's nice it's nice to have like in my corner, and also it's just a great source of experience and like social interactions for me. So however bad or stressful it may seem to me, like the good obviously outweighs that. Also, and because I'm really not super interested in design, but I've also had some inputs on like what we should do out there or how we should change up our sign. It's really fun. Like we're planning on building a children's village, and basically that whole idea and like what we want to put out there is because of Ida and I, because we're like, oh, we want a place where kids can have fun, because I know that just being up there for the blues shows isn't always fun, especially for kids.
Yeah. And then adding on to what you said about like input, especially on the children's village, since we are children, I'd hope that we're helpful when it comes to like any aspect of needs for children that come to Foxfire.
What is missing at Foxfire for kids now?
Well, like Selah said, I don't think that many kids enjoy the blues. So I feel like a playground or like some activity for kids during the shows would be helpful so they have something to do. Or like even just like a place where they can hang out at. I feel like it's way better than them just having to be bored.
It's funny that Ida is complaining about boredom, given the wealth of confessions she and her sister made in this conversation. Most of these admissions were offered as fond memories of things the kids have gotten into, mostly while unsupervised on the land. Both girls said that they want Foxfire to persist, though not under their direct stewardship.
let's continue, actually.
Then, as we were winding up the interview, a new voice entered the chat.
Okay. Any more questions?
I don't think I have any more.
I got a question.
Yes.
Okay, so
This is Diane. They introduced Annette and I back in 2018. I wasn't able to be with Annette and the kids in person for this interview. So Diane recorded their side of the conversation while I zoomed in. Despite the fact that they've known Annette much longer than I have, Diane still hasn't made it up to Foxfire. But they know that Foxfire means a lot to people in the region.
And I also get a sense just from observing that a lot of people are proud of Foxfire, like proud that Foxfire exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious, like, do you have a sense of what Foxfire means? Like, what do you think Foxfire means to other people outside of your family?
The pride is contagious.
After several attempts to nail down an idea that felt equally broad and slippery, and a couple of efforts to rephrase the question, Selah, like a pro, passed the baton to the one person she knew would have an answer.
Like Foxfire? I would love to answer that, but I don't think anyone could say it better than my mom. What? I'm deferring the question.
I have an answer.
Selah. Well, I don't have an answer for that one.
I think what Foxfire means to our family is, I feel like there's a big sense of like duty and responsibility around it. Like it's an acknowledgement of the sacrifices that came before in order to have this place for us, and like the work that is required to maintain it and to sustain it, and it's not just all about duty and everything, but it's also like it's a gift. It's a gift. And I mean, I think about our family that comes and visits that don't live in Mississippi, that don't live in the South anymore, and when they come home for reunions or to come visit, and they're just like, they're inspired, they're happy to be there, they're glad that we're doing what we're doing. And I think for what Foxfire means for other people that beyond our family, I think Foxfire continues to have this effect on people where they're like, people just get there and they're able to just like relax, breathe deeper, and just like be overwhelmed by like birds and blue skies and pink skies and purple skies and good food and having everything that they need to be like safe and comfortable and feel like held. And I think more and more as I encounter people and they talk about like their experience out in the land, it's like, oh, there's not always spaces that hold us well, even when we have the convenience of cities or or fancy places or things like that, it's not always that people feel like held. I think that's some of what we do well. That radical hospitality is some of what we do well. Yeah.
The world has seen a lot of change over the last 100 years, from shifts in the Earth's climate to new technologies. Mississippi has, of course, been through lots of change as well. James Meredith was admitted to the University of Mississippi in 1962, which finally integrated the institution. Civil rights activist Medgar Evers' murderer was finally brought to justice in 1994, more than 30 years after he was killed. And following years of petitions, the old state flag, which featured the Confederate battle flag, was finally retired in 2020. Yet, with all the victories won in the name of civil rights, Mississippi has stubbornly continued clutching the hate at its roots. Students placed a noose over the statue of James Meredith on U of M's campus in 2012. Emmett Till's memorial is routinely shot up and defaced. In driving through the state, you're liable to see the old flag flying alongside the new. History never dies. It changes shape, slips into the soil, feeds the future. Annette is no stranger to the stories that make Mississippi what it is. When she started listening to her ancestors more intentionally, it was to detangle their voices from the deafening echo of history in the present. There's no telling what's coming as the century unravels, But listening to Selah and Ida talk about Foxfire's future, I hear an echo of what brought Bill back to the land 20 years ago. Like the faint glow of bioluminescence hidden in his psychic understory. The memories of his childhood called him here to retire and build something for his descendants. Selah and Ida seem to have been enchanted by the same source of light, and it's clear they see its magic. I imagine that having had this place to be children, to know their family, and to be held by their ancestors will fuel them through all the sacrifice, hardship, joy, and triumph that is to come.
What do you want people to know about your family? And what do you want them to know about Foxfire in 100 years?
Well.
Wait. Let me talk. Let me cook. That, the only reason it's so great is because I exist.
I mean, she's gonna like popularize it when she becomes famous.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I don't want it to be like, oh, history. Like, I don't want it to be history. And I want people to like keep on spreading that word and encouraging people to come here. And then when they come here, it's like, I don't know, maybe we'll walk on the stage and be like, this land has been in my family for 200 years now. It all started with my great-great-grandfather. And it's been passed down from generation to generation. And I also just want them to know that Foxfire is here for you, and it will always be.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Is that it? Is it wraps?
Yes, that's all I have to say.
Okay, good.
Today you heard from Annie, Bill, and Annette Hollowell, Aunt Bessie, Aunt Mattie, Autranise Folsom, Aunt Corine, Cousin Gert, Rhondalyn Peairs, Rachel McGee, John Leslie, Selah and Ida Hollowell Simons-Jones, and Cory Diane, with interviews conducted by Rhondalyn Peairs and myself. Music today by Napoleon Strickland and Othar Turner's Rising Star Fife and Drum Band, which both came to us courtesy of the Association for Cultural Equity. I composed the other music in this episode. Sound design by Cedric Wilson, who also mixed the episode. Our virtual altar was brought to life by Aaliyah Danette of Ancient Future Forest, with photography by Jay Williams and Jasmine B. Johnson. Our house historian is Rhondalyn Peairs. We Are the Promised Land is produced by me, Free For All, in collaboration with Annette Hollowell. Special thanks to Cory Diane for the tape syncs and for introducing Annette and me all those years ago. Special thanks as well to the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at the University of Mississippi, the Yaknapatawpha Arts Council, and the Mississippi Presenters Network, and to the Association for Cultural Equity. We Are the Promised Land is made possible by generous support from the National Performance Network, the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production, Carpetbag Theater, the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, the New Orleans Center for the Gulf South at Tulane, the Pantaria Foundation, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, Alternate Roots, the Big We Foundation, the Mississippi Humanities Council under a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, and with financial assistance from the National Park Service and the Mississippi Hills Heritage Area Alliance. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the last episode of our season, but don't worry, this audio altar is but one portion of our homage to the Hill Country's Black land legacies. For photographs, visual art, poetry, and more, please visit our altar online at wearethepromisedland.net.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Y'all are awesome. You're my best work yet.
Yeah, she'll be my best friend. No, wait. She'll be my senior. She'll be my mentor.
Yeah.
But anyway, great
No,
job.
you guys did a great job.
Great job,
I
okay.
I didn't realize that you all had grown so much that, and you were that expressive in your
Can't you tell with my height?
getting your point across,
One across, yeah.
and grabbing the attention of your audience.
Thank you. I think
You're
I'm
great.
skilled at public speaking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
skilled.
It's hard
That's a good word. Yeah, that describes you all. They are wonderful.
But you guys,
I'm not just saying this
with
because
your input,
I'm
y'all just
looking at
make
this critically.
with your input and your love for Foxfire, you just make it greater.
Yeah.
Great. It's getting better and better every year. So all you guys do is just put your input in and your support and your love. And that's what Foxfire is all about. It's about love, okay?
Yeah.
I don't work that hard for no reason. I work hard because I love what Foxfire stands for, you know, within the community, within the family, and all the sacrifice and the hard work pays off in the long run, okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Now I think we're done. Now that the ball is rolling.
Let's. If we
Hey guys, stop.
Can we get 30 seconds of silence, and I'll give